Joe Rogan has been called a racist throughout his entire career to a certain extent, and I just don't know why. I mean, look at this, read this, take a look at this. CNN has called Joe Rogan a racist. It's ridiculous. Brian Stelter. It's fucking ridiculous. NPR has ran segments calling Joe Rogan a racist. The Guardian, which the Guardian's bullshit. They're all bullshit, but the Guardian called Joe Rogan a racist because he has said the N-word in the past. And they took it way out of context. Now, should you say that word? Probably not. You probably shouldn't. But they took it way out of context. He wasn't saying it in a derogative way. He was saying it to recite what someone else had said. A black person. We have the BBC and his past use of racist language. And then we have MSNBC that have also called Joe Rogan a racist. So what's the deal? Is Joe Rogan some closeted racist? Absolutely not. He's not. These people are just attempting to punch up. They're attempting to get clicks, and they've created this narrative that is so untrue. It's laughable. It's laughable. Joe Rogan didn't really even respond to this, guys. He didn't even really respond. He did. He put something on his Twitter. Now X. Sorry, Elon. On his Twitter. And he said, you know, a long time ago, I did use the word, and I know now that you can't use the word. They took it out of context, and he never once mentioned that he's not a racist. And I think that people that say I'm not a racist go about it the wrong way. And I commend Joe Rogan for how he handled this because it's nonsense. Everyone was sticking up for Joe, and it really, really backfired in all of their faces. All of these news sources just further cemented the fact that they are nothing but sensationalistic click machines, if you will. I can't even think of the term because what I want to say, I don't think I could say on YouTube. They're nothing but drama stirs, and they attempt to have the most derogatory, the most sensationalistic clickbait titles for their news coverage stories in order to spark controversy and in order to gain eyeballs. And that is exactly why the news is failing. Joe Rogan's not a racist. In fact, during a press conference, Israel Alasanya, Stylebender, was asked by some reporter about Joe Rogan being racist, and he said, man, Joe Rogan is not racist. In fact, what he did say, I can't say on here, but he said, Joe Rogan is my brother, and I love Joe Rogan. And everyone feels that way about Joe. Joe is not a racist. And you know what Joe didn't do that he could have very easily done in order to just say, bam, here we go. He could have mentioned the fact that through marriage, he now has a black daughter that he adopted because his wife, which I don't want to bring names into this, Joe doesn't bring names up to protect his family, and I am going to respect that. But his current wife brought into the relationship, into the marriage, a daughter, and her name is Kaija. And she is an aspiring musician. Joe doesn't talk about her a whole lot because she doesn't like to be spoken about. She wanted to create her own path. Her father died when she was 7 in a tragic, tragic car accident, and he was actually kind of a successful musician. He was in a band, in a musical group. He passed away, tragically. Joe came into her life, and Joe has been there for her, always supporting her behind the scenes, not because he's ashamed of it. He loves talking about her. He loves talking about all of his children. He considers her to be one of his children, and you can tell. You can absolutely tell. She lives with him. You know, she has an apartment in Austin and also in Los Angeles, but she lives with him in Austin. You know, she grew up with him. That's her father, really. You know, no one will ever replace your biological father, but Joe has been there for her. And Joe Rogan didn't mention this one time. He didn't even mention it when he was being accused of being a racist, guys. Joe Rogan is not a racist. You may call him a lot of things. He's not a racist. Anyone that knows Joe, or anyone that even feels like they know Joe because they watch the Joe Rogan Experience, knows Joe Rogan's not a racist. I mean, he's had people on that have spoken about racism, and how terrible it is, and he's talked about it. It's just nonsense. It's stupidity. And yet, he said the N-word a long time ago, back when it was never socially acceptable. I'm not trying to apologize for him or justify what he said, because he said it, and you shouldn't really say it. But the way the news replayed that, they clipped it up and made it sound like he was just a hateful person, and he wasn't. He was talking about the words that someone else had said. And, did he use the word? Yeah. That's not really our word to use. In fact, I don't think anyone should use that word, but he used it. And by the way, he didn't say the hard R. I don't know if he had. I think maybe he has said it in the past, but it was talking about how stupid the word is and how it's a word in the English language that means so many different things. It means a different thing when white people say it than when black people say it. And the news took it out of context, and they just bashed him. They attempted to bash him because they can't get him on anything, because people understand Joe and they can relate to Joe, and they have Joe interacting with them, at least that's what it feels like, on almost an everyday basis through his podcasts, and they can relate to him and they know him. They feel as if they know him. It's strange, right? Because it's someone that you've never actually met, and yet you feel like you know them through their content, through their honesty, and through their vulnerability, and through the thousands of countless hours that he has put onto the internet through the Joe Rogan experience. And so they couldn't get him on it, but they tried. They really tried. And not one time did he bring up the fact that he has a black daughter. And I respect that, because that right there should say just how racist Joe Rogan is. He didn't even have to defend himself. Sometimes when people defend themselves, they have to justify it, like in their own mind. He didn't do that. He let the public defend him. He let the voice of the people defend him. And that's how you know these fucking news sources like CNN or even Fox News, they're all the same. I don't care whether you're on the right or the left. They're all doing the same thing. They're all punching up because they're looking at the numbers and they're getting bitched at by upper management because people like Joe Rogan are killing it. Some cage commentator slash past Fear Factor host is killing it online, and their numbers are disintegrating by the hour. And so they had to do something. And it's shameful that this is what it came to, because it's untrue, and it's nothing but lies. He should honestly sue. He should, but he didn't, because he doesn't need money. Like, it's just a headache for him at this point. But it's a shame that he didn't, because that would make these people realize that they can't just keep doing this. Like, who is it TMZ? As CNN became TMZ. And we all know that The Guardian is bullshit anyways. The Guardian's bullshit. I compare it to a news source similar to The Onion at this point. It's ridiculous. All these people are starving and they're desperate. And so what do? They put out some bullshit lie, false narrative, sensationalistic, clickbait garbage in order to spark controversy and get ad rev. They're not doing it because they're social justice warriors, although that's stupid as fuck anyways. That's a whole nother situation that we don't even have to get into, about how weak and how bubble wrapped the current news media pretends to be. And then behind the scenes, they're absolute monsters. But when they are on camera, they act like saints. They act like they're standing up for people. They're not standing up for shit. What they're doing is they're getting ad revenue. That's what they're doing. And they're doing a really terrible job at it. Why don't, instead of you attacking Joe Rogan, you actually go out and cover news? What happened to investigative journalism? Is that dead? No, it's not dead. It's just been passed along to people that actually want to put the effort in and conduct a very solid piece of content online. We have YouTubers that do this consistently. And yet the news just does rage bait, clickbait bullshit. And that's why they're failing. I remember when I used to watch 60 Minutes with my grandparents growing up. It was amazing because they actually took the time to know what they were speaking about. It just wasn't an idiot or a pretty face in a miniskirt reading from a teleprompter. People actually cared. And speaking of actually caring, that is my cell phone, so I apologize. But I will just end by saying that it's ridiculous, and Joe, you're not a racist, bro. Throw that in the garbage. That's nonsense. You know, these people need to actually put out valuable content. Instead, they're just punching up at the king because they're jealous of you and they're upset because their way of conducting business is dying. So, shame on them. And Joe Rogan, we love you, man. Keep doing what you do. I have not one bad thing to say about Joe because he's been so involved and so meaningful and so impactful within all of our lives. And so we don't believe that for a second. Keep doing what you're doing, and we love you.